Hey guys, we're here with another video. Today is gonna be a special one. I'm gonna attempt to do these things where I'll do like these creepypasta reads. This is part one. This is gonna be like I'll do like different compilations of different kinds of like creepypastas. This first kind that I'm gonna be trying to do are arcade creepypastas. This is part one of 3 arcade creepypastas. Here we go. Polybuus. Polybuus is an urban legend about a rare arcade game released in 1981. The game was created by a mysterious company called Sinsolution, I think, German for sense deletion, and was a puzzle slash shoot 'em up somewhat like Tempest. It was only released in a few suburbs of Portland, Oregon. It was supposedly very popular, with people forming long lines to play it. However, players reported strange things about the game, such as hearing a woman crying and seeing grotesque faces out of the corner of their eyes while playing it. Players would also have nightmares afterwards, as well as experience nausea, headaches, blackouts, and amnesia. Some even committed suicide. Others stopped playing video games altogether, and at least one became an anti-video game activist. According to the owner of an arcade, men wearing black suits would often come to collect records from the game. They did not take any money, simply data on gameplay. Because of this, the leading theory is that the machines were some sort of government experiment using subliminal messages. The game remains in obscurity, as around 1 month after its release, all of the cabinets suddenly disappeared. One showed up in an arcade in 1998, but quickly vanished again. While some have tried to recreate the game, no one has ever found the original ROM. A version of the game is available to download at the Sinsolution website. I probably butchered it because I don't speak that much. Alright, next up. Evil Auto. Story by Mason Red. Have you ever played Berserk? I've always been too much of a pussy to ever play it. If you saw what I saw, you felt the sadness I felt. You wouldn't play it either. It was 1981. I remember it was early Saturday morning. The sun had barely risen. Me and my friend Jeff sat outside of the video arcade. We always got up early on Saturday and waited until the video arcade opened. One time we got chairs, we waited so long. Jeff was 19 at the time. He was only a few months older than me. I looked over at Jeff and asked him what time it was. He pulled a leather hand watch out of his pocket. I had never seen it before, and he stole it. He's always been a little rebellious to the law. He looked down at the watch and told me it was 6:30 a.m. I sighed. How come we always come so early? I asked. I've told you a billion times, Jeff replied. I always want to be the first to play Berserk. Berserk? He always wants to play Berserk. He shakes slightly in excitement as he looks at the arcade machine through the window. We wait another hour. After each hour, more and more people begin to show up. They had more common sense than we did. We usually waited 2 to 3 hours for the place to open. At 8 o'clock, a man with a short beard walked up from the inside of the arcade and unlocked the door. Jeff and I, with the small crowd of people by our side, rushed through the doors of the arcade. Jeff was the first to get to the coin booth. He gave his $5 to the young man on the other side of the counter. He handed Jeff 20 silver 25-cent coins. He clenched his quarters in his fist and jammed it into his back pocket. He ran over to the Berserk machine and slammed the quarter into the slot. He pressed the start button and it greeted to a robotic voice, to my knowledge, saying, "Attack it!" A large smile walked upon Jeff's face. He ran through each level, blasting each robot and avoiding the evil smile, or Evil Auto as he's called. I refer to him as the Death Smile, invincible, unstoppable, evil. After getting my $10 worth in quarters, I pull out a chair and watch Jeff play Berserk. I always watched because he always was playing it and creeped me out too much to play it. It creeped me out too much to play it. He rubbed his face on the screen. I can hear him whisper, "Come on, come on!" Each time he said it, his voice became louder and more violent. It became so loud that I couldn't hear the ambience of people playing in the arcade. He shot the last robot on screen and ran into Otto. The screen flashed. Jeff got the high score. He fell to the ground. At first, I thought he was joking and I giggled. His body started to flail. "Jeff, are you alright?" I asked. "Jeff!" I screamed. Everyone in the arcade started to stare at the flaring body on the ground. Oh my gosh, the flailing body on the ground. I dropped to my knees and put my hands on his chest. "Call 911, I hollered. When I said that, I noticed something evil happen. The screen of Berserk flashed again, and you could see the demonic smile laughing. "It was you," I whispered. I always knew that game was sketchy, but not like this. I started to sob. Jeff's body stopped moving. "Oh my God," I whispered. I put my hand on his chest. I hollered, "Where's the effing ambulance?" I lay on his chest for a good 10 minutes. I hear a siren from outside. In a matter of moments, twin men pulled up and grabbed me and Jeff. They were paramedics. One paramedic tried to revive him. "Clear!" he hollered. I saw him shake his head and then say, "No good." The other paramedic ran to the ambulance and grabbed a body bag. I leaned on the wall next to the arcade machine and sobbed. They grabbed Jeff and put him into the bag. They zipped up the bag. The men picked up the bag with Jeff's lifeless body inside and hauled it off to the ambulance. The two men put his body into the car, shut the bag, and entered the cab. I walked outside and watched the ambulance move out to the parking lot. Jeff died of a heart attack that night. I walked back to the arcade and looked at Berserk. Jeff's smile was still there laughing. I pointed to the machine and said, "It was you." Out of anger, I dragged my fist to the screen. Sparks flared and the screen shattered. I pulled my hand out of the shattered screen and stared at it. There was one shard of glass in my knuckle. A long streak of blood ran down my arm. The owner screams, "Hey man, are you crazy?" To which I replied, "No, just angry." I opened the door and was thrown out of the arcade. And now, last but not least, Rally X. I still can't believe what happened. I worked at an arcade. It was only briefly because the arcade closed down after 8 months. The arcade was in the small building that used to be the local Goodwill store until it moved to a bigger building. After that, the building was for rent and came to the arcade. The arcade had some of the newest arcade games, which made its closing surprising to me. I have to face the fact that arcades don't really stay in business much these days. Because people can play games in their home, but you still can't get to experience games like Dark Escape 4D at home, or anything with motion simulators for that matter. The arcade dedicated one section of the building to classic arcade games. They had Pac-Man, Donkey Kong Jr., Road Blasters, a Black Knight pinball machine, Tron, and a bunch of space shooters, among other titles. Right in the corner of the classic arcade games was a section of the arcade game section was an old Rally X. When gamers actually did come into play, Rally X wasn't exactly their first choice. It actually was a bit dusty and was pretty old looking, not in very good condition. I remember trying to scrub off some of the obscenities someone wrote on this machine in permanent marker. Ugh, I hate it when people take my job. Wait, what? Oh my gosh. Ugh, I hate it when people make my job harder. One day after work, I noticed the Rally X machine was actually on a level. I guess someone had abandoned their game and felt sorry for it. So I played it. Yeah, I'm strange. I know. Shut up. Anyhow, I went over and grabbed the joystick and began moving the car around, but I couldn't find any flags, and there was nothing on the radar. There were no rocks, no enemies, no flags, nothing but a little blue car. I was about to unplug the game and plug it back in when a loud crash sound came from the game, scaring the crap out of me. I looked up to see what happened and saw the words, "Don't do that," on the screen. What the crap? And the game went over, and the game over screen came up and it went back to normal. I looked in the quarter box and discovered that there was no quarter in the box at all. No one had been playing. The next day, I put in a quarter during break and played the game, but nothing happened. So I stayed after work that night. Sure enough, the game started without any quarters being inserted, and there was nothing but the car. I decided to try something. I looked around to make sure no one was watching, knowing full well this was crazy, and then started talking to the game. "Hi." The machine buzzed for a moment, and then the word "hello" appeared on the screen. I was a bit startled since I wasn't even sure that this was going to work. I stuttered for a bit, trying to think of what to say next. I decided to start off basic and asked, "What's your name?" In response, the title screen came up, but instead of Rally X, it just said Rally. "That's your name?" I asked, to which the game replied with the game theme. I assumed that I was talking to the racer shown on the side of the game. So I talked to Rally for a while, and I came back every day after work. I noticed none of the other games talked, just Rally. I asked Rally why this was, to which he replied that he was better than other games, which surprised me since he never seemed full of himself before. One day, he asked if he could tell me something, and I said sure. Then all of a sudden, the text he used to talk turned black. It said, "I came into this world with high expectations. I had good graphics, unique gameplay, all the ingredients of a successful game." In 1980, at the AMOA trade show, I was told I was the best of the best, but I didn't even come in third place. I still don't understand it. I did moderately well, but I can't get over this fact that I didn't live up to the expectations placed on me. What made Pac-Man better than me? We were both maze games, but for some reason people liked this maze better than mine. He got his own cartoon for Pete's sake, and what did I get? One sequel and dozens of cheap rip-offs. After reading this, I felt slightly disturbed that Rally knew so much about the outside world, but I also felt sorry for him. Then he started ranting about how his graphics were better than Pac-Man's and Defender's, and how he should have become famous. He wasn't sad like I initially thought. He was jealous and bitter. Eventually, the game went back to the start screen, and when I tried talking to the game, I realized the janitor was right behind me asking what the heck I was doing still here, and why I was talking to a video game. It was closing time and I had to go home. I didn't get that much sleep that night. What Rally said bugged me. At work, a kid came to me with a problem. He said Pac-Man wasn't working right. I looked at the screen and saw the game was on the kill screen that usually popped up when the player reached level 256. But the kid had just started the game. I gave the kid his quarter back and put the out of order sign on the machine, but I saw the car from Rally X drive across the screen. No one else seemed to notice. I didn't want to stay after work that day, but I was worried Rally might do something worse if he didn't. I put my phone on a charger before going to talk to Rally. When I went back to talk to him, he was bragging about what he'd done, and it kind of sickened me how sadistic he was being. Taking joy that the game was out of order and might be taken out of the arcade. He started going into detail, saying he could imagine it rotting in a scrapyard. I don't really think he knows that broken games don't go to scrapyards like broken cars do, and he implied that this was going to take out some other games next. I got really mad. He was taking out other games to try to get gamers to play this. I started yelling at him, telling him how sick and crazy he was, not caring if the janitor or anyone else heard this and thought I was crazy. When I was done, for what seemed like hours but was probably only a few minutes, the room went silent. Then, the game screen started flickering. The screen showed Rally, furious at me. He stated that he could do whatever he wanted and I couldn't do anything about it. I told him I could and went for the plug to prove my point, but when I touched it, I burned my hand. The game was making loud, high-pitched sounds. My hand was throbbing with pain, and I started crying. I was so scared. Then the screen stopped flickering, the The game sound stopped, and all was quiet except for me crying. I got up and looked at the screen. "I'm sorry," it said. I was confused, and then the game broke down. The whole cabinet was hot. Riley had overheated himself in his rage. Some repairmen tried to see what happened, but they couldn't explain how a game suddenly overheated. My employer concluded that because the game was so old, it had malfunctioned, but I knew better. One thing I know was that Riley isn't dead. You see, my phone, which was charging suddenly, had a Rally X background. All the ringtones were replaced with Rally X sound effects and music, and now I have Rally X Rumble on my phone. I guess Rally figured out how to make sure he would always be able to get someone's attention. Once I got an angry phone call from someone who had received a prank phone call, I still think of Rally as a friend, and sometimes I still talk to him. Whenever I ask about that last incident, he changes the subject. It appears to make him uncomfortable. Riley knew what was going on outside of the game. I don't really know whether all games are capable of this. Like I said earlier, none of the other games in the arcade talked to me. But that was by choice or because they were incapable. I tried asking Riley, but he still says he's better because he's better. So I guess I'll never really know for sure. And that's it. Thank you guys for watching, and yeah, blah blah.